Welcome back. You are about to be looking at live pictures of former president and current Republican frontrunner Donald Trump in Dubuque, Iowa, where he's giving a policy speech on immigration and border security. But take a look at this. This is the line of voters who waited for hours to hear him at this event, his second event of the day in that all-important caucus state. Trump is campaigning in the Hawkeye state as he takes heat from conservatives over what he told Meet the Press about his stance on abortion, including calling Governor Ron DeSantis' signing of a 6-week abortion ban a, quote, terrible thing. Iowa Governor Kim Reynolds, who's opted not to endorse anyone in the primary, posted on social media, quote, it's never a terrible thing to protect innocent life. Vaughn Hillyard is on the trail for us in Dubuque following the Trump campaign. So, Vaughn, what are we hearing from the former president today?
Hey there, Garrett. Yeah, just about 5 minutes ago, he took the stage here in Dubuque. His first stop of the day was in Maquoketa, Iowa, about 30 minutes south of where we are. This is the first of what is going to be 5 trips by the end of October, I'm told, by Donald Trump. Had a very sparse campaign schedule over the summer here, but with the 4 indictments and the arrest out of his way, he intends to be here essentially every week over the course of the next month plus. And so for this campaign, it's important to know when we're talking about Iowa here, the campaign have been getting folks to fill out these commit to caucus cards. Now, they did the exact same thing 8 years ago when Donald Trump was taking on Ted Cruz and Marco Rubio, but it's a whole new staff this time around compared to his 2016 campaign. And the sources in the campaign tell me, look, 8 years ago, they missed the opportunity to ultimately galvanize and get folks out to caucus, or at least enough to pull off a victory. Lost by Ted Cruz about 3 percentage points. This time around, they say that they are committed to not only getting the information of these voters here around the state of Iowa, but then ultimately making sure they have an understanding of how the caucus works come January 15th and make sure that they come out.
And yesterday, Vaughn, we talked about the fact that Trump's going to Detroit. It's kind of a general election play, a contrast with Biden. Here he is in Iowa, which is really no longer a competitive general election state. How do you see the tension between him trying to kind of sew up the nomination here versus looking ahead to a potential fall matchup with the current president?
Right, you're absolutely right. Much like his decision to not engage on a debate stage with other Republican rivals, largely he is ignoring naming even the likes of Ron DeSantis or Nikki Haley. At his stop just about 2 hours ago, he quickly mentioned Ron DeSantis by name, suggesting he was 30 or 40 points down. And frankly, Garrett, when you look at the polling, nationally, Donald Trump is dominating at averaging leads of anywhere from 40 to 45 points. And when you look at the likes of South Carolina, he holds strong leads there. A new poll out from CNN here just in the last few minutes in New Hampshire. So it shows Ron DeSantis now in 5th place with Donald Trump holding about a 25-point lead. And then when you look here in Iowa, it's arguably the state that he's not doing as well in, but still, by consideration, he's still got a 25-point lead here in the state of Iowa. And it was back in 1988 was the last time with Bob Dole we saw in a Republican race somebody win by more than 10 percentage points. So by all accounts, 4 months out from the Iowa caucus, Garrett, Donald Trump is feeling good, and that is why he's training his thoughts on Joe Biden. And as you said here today, talking about immigration policy on a larger level, very much of a general election message.
And Vaughn, unless I'm mistaken, he did not talk much about abortion at the first event. That's obviously going to be a huge issue in the primary and in the general election. We heard what Trump told Kristen Welker about his position or positions on abortion. How are voters there that you've spoken to reacting to what Donald Trump has said about this most recently?
Right. I'll let you actually hear from a couple of them because it's notable that Kim Reynolds, the governor of Iowa, who is not endorsed in this race, much to the chagrin of Donald Trump, put out in a tweet last night that it is not a, quote, terrible thing, as Donald Trump suggested over the weekend with the interview with our Kristen Welker on Meet the Press, that a 6-week abortion ban signed by Ron DeSantis in Florida was a terrible thing. Those were the words of Donald Trump this weekend. Of course, just 2 months ago here in Iowa, Kim Reynolds signed that exact very legislation. But I've talked to a great many number of voters, Garrett, who have told me, look, the only reason that any of these state pieces of legislation have been able to be signed is because Donald Trump was president and appointed 3 conservative Supreme Court justices that overturned Roe v. Wade. I want to let you hear from a couple of the voters just a few moments ago.
There are things I disagree with, like that. I think 6 weeks is more than fair. So, yeah, like, as much as I like the guy, there are some things that I would disagree.
I am pro-life, but I'm also a realist, and I realize that's probably not going to go away. I feel like as long as it's within the first trimester, this late-term stuff is, I mean, to me, is just bonkers.
I would hope he wouldn't ban it at 6 weeks, which from the talks of it, it doesn't seem like he would. It would definitely upset me if he did ban it at 6 weeks. But yeah, it would definitely affect how I would plan to vote for him, I feel like, if he did that.
Now, the question, Garrett, is none of the indictments have hurt Donald Trump in his polling, and you haven't even seen his Republican rivals go after him on any of these arrests. The question here is on the abortion issue, on an actual policy issue. Could there be an opening? The candidates intend to try to use it, but the question is, does it have an impact on the voters? That's what we'll be asking along the way, Garrett.
We've got plenty of time to chew on it, Vaughn. Thank you.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.